Billy's life on the island of Sodor had not started well. After his refusal to listen to other engines' advice had led him to running dry, he found himself in hot water with Sir Topham Hatt, who spoke sternly to him at the sheds that night.
"My engines do as they are told,"
scolded Sir Topham Hatt.
"I told Thomas to show you the ropes, yet you give him nothing but grief and caused multiple delays along the line. What have you got to say for yourself?"
Billy's frown widened. "It's not my fault, sir," he pouted. "If that Thomas had just stayed out of my way, then I would have done things perfectly and been on time. He's nothing but a bossy, blue bother."
"From what I've heard, I beg to differ. Until you learn some respect, you'll be helping James with mainline goods, and only goods." "Good work, sir. But I have a passenger train to pull tomorrow, full of important people, and—" "No use trying to change my mind, James. Don't go thinking I've forgotten about the trouble you've been getting yourself into lately. Perhaps being Billy's mentor will be good for the both of you, and bring you back down to earth. Good night, you two."
And Sir Topham Hatt turned on his heel and walked away. James was cross.
"This is just great,"
he grumbled.
"Embarrassing myself at Cullen Castle in front of the other engines was bad enough, and now I have to look after a dirty hillbilly runt."
"Now you wait a minute. Billy started, but he was rudely interrupted.
"Oh, whatever. If I have to teach a little engine, then I might as well at least get it right. Tomorrow, Billy, you will learn how a mainline engine handles trucks."
Before Billy could even begin to retort, James had fallen asleep. Billy sighed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow was going to be a long, long day. The next morning, Billy was sleeping soundly, and the warmth of his fire spread through his boiler. All of a sudden, he was woken up by a shrill whistle.
"Oh, come along, Billy,"
James grunted.
"Get moving. We haven't got all day, you know."
Billy slowly crept forward onto the turntable and followed James, muttering under his breath the whole way to the yard. The trucks giggled in their silly way as the two engines arrived, and James bumped them across them.
"Enough of your nonsense. Come along,"
James snapped. Billy, still sore from being told what to do the day before, wheezed angrily. "Why are you bossing those trucks around? What did they ever do to you?" he huffed.
You're joking, right? They're nothing but trouble, much like yourself. What haven't they ever done to me would be an easier question to answer."
Billy rolled his eyes. He had minimal experience with trucks, and none with the troublesome ones, so he didn't believe James. "Pah!" Billy scoffed. "I bet they're just upset at you telling them what to do. You bossy, know-it-all, big guys, of all the engines, should know this best." Now it was James's turn to scoff.
"You better brace yourself, Billy," he said. "Those trucks are trouble, and you need to understand that before it's too late."
Billy had never been told to brace himself before, but he was cross all the same. "Don't tell me what to do," he shouted. "Stay out of my way and let me do my job, and go and do your own."
"Didn't say I didn't warn you,"
James muttered darkly.
"Little Billy almost ran me over at the junction today," remarked Gordon. "He's going to knock himself off the rails, the way he keeps bouncing about."
"And the trucks have been a nightmare since he started helping with the goods. I've hardly been able to keep them under control on my kipper runs,"
added Henry.
"Why haven't you been teaching him anything, James? That was supposed to be your job after all." "Huh, as if I haven't tried," retorted James. "He's unteachable. Refuses to listen to a word I say. He even thinks I'm being too harsh on the trucks. Trucks! Not worth the bother at this rate."
But then, he looked over and saw that Billy was fast asleep. A wide grin appeared on his face.
Oh, I know I can teach him,"
James chuckled to himself as the pieces fell into place.
"I've got such a pain."
Billy jumped awake. It was James, groaning in agony. His driver and fireman were looking him all over, but he wouldn't cooperate. Sir Topham Hatt, who had come once he'd heard the news, shook his head. "Well, it's no good," sighed James's driver. "We'll just have to take him to the works and see what they can do." Sir Topham Hatt nodded. then turned to Billy.
Billy, I'm afraid you'll have to handle the goods on your own while James is sent to be looked over. Brace yourself for the heavy loads.
Again, with bracing myself. My teeth are just fine, Billy thought to himself. All the same, he was excited. James couldn't try to tell him what to do anymore. Of course, sir. Thank you, sir. These goods runs will be the best handled ever. No thanks to Mr. Bossy Boiler here. With that, Billy happily flounced out of the sheds and towards the yard, as James smirked to himself. His trick had worked. At the yard, Billy marshaled his trucks in a lordly way. All right, you rickety lot, he barked. I won't tolerate being pushed around by you, so come quietly. But Billy was so focused on making sure the trucks knew their place that he forgot to put a brake fan at the end of his train. The trucks noticed and began to hatch a plan. Now remember, said Billy in a patronizing manner, I am not that big blue bother Thomas. I don't stand for being bumped about. Don't be like the big engines. Of course, Billy. We won't be like them, Billy, the trucks mocked. We'll be worse. We'll be worse. The trucks chuckled. But Billy didn't hear and thought they were being serious. He set off with his giggling load in tow. Soon enough, the cavalcade approached the gradient just outside of Crosby. It wasn't as steep as Gordonsville, but still caused all that traveled up a never-ending route. As Billy started to climb the hill, the trucks began their tricks. Hold back! Hold back! Hold back! Billy started to feel the strain on his buffers. Oh, no, you don't! He squeaked as he fought his way up the hill. I'm not going to let anyone hold me back anymore. Not you trucks, not James, not anyone. Okay, if you say so. As they pushed forward with all their might, catching Billy and his crew completely off guard. Stop! 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 Billy cried. The driver fought for control, but Billy's brakes were no use against the heavy train. Guard! Brakes! Billy's face fell as he finally realized his mistake. Oh no! I have no brake van! The station master raised the alarm. The runaway sighting at Crosby neighbors a house with a small strawberry garden, surrounded by a barbed wire fence. Billy had managed to slow down as he approached the station, but not fast enough. Oh, horrors! Cried Billy as he shut his eyes tight, as everything happened at once. When Billy finally opened his eyes, he saw that he had crashed straight into the fence, which had wrapped itself firmly around his teeth. Having heard the commotion, the gardener raced outside to see what happened. However, once she saw Billy, she could only laugh. I thought I was needing to protect my berries from animals. Would have gotten a stronger material if I knew engines would try to steal them too. Ho 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 ho! She chuckled. Billy turned bright red with anger. Sir Topham had arrived at the scene on board James, who had just come back from the works. He strolled up to Billy and pointed at him crossly.
When I said to brace yourself, this is not what I meant,
he said sternly.
You have caused a great deal of trouble, Billy. We will be reimbursing the gardener for her fence, and now James will have to handle the goods work on his own.
James gulped. He didn't like his trick now.
As punishment for your reckless behavior,
continued Sir Topham Hatt,
we'll be leaving that wire on you for the rest of the day. Maybe this will finally show you that respect goes a long way.
Billy just seized. Later, James dropped Billy off at the works. His buffers were twisted, his coupling hooks were broken, and the barbed wire fence made him a sight to behold. As Billy sat there in silent embarrassment, he still wasn't sure what bracing himself was supposed to mean, but was certain that he never wanted to do it ever again.